All right, we are live on YouTube and good to go.
This is the first quarterly meeting of the Utility and Transportation Advisory Commission, Thursday, February 8, 2024. We're meeting hybrid. We've got some people who are connecting electronically and some members here in City Hall, and we welcome you. Let me say just a bit about how we'll handle conversation in the virtual environment here. Our protocols for the virtual meeting. After staff presentations, and I think we have one of those today, the chair will request comments from each member. After each member has an opportunity to ask a question or make an observation, the chair will then speak, if so desired, and members will use the raise the hand feature to notify the chair of their desire to speak again. However, they will not enter the conversation without first being recognized by the chair. This should allow for a thorough discussion with everybody having the opportunity to express their views while maintaining some order. We will call the meeting to order at this time. We're starting at 3:31 in the afternoon with a roll call. Shauna Larson.
Present.
And Shauna's first meeting with us since your appointment. I'm John Kress, Chair. I'm present for the most part. Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Melody Williams, present virtually. Commissioner Tessman.
Present.
In the room. And Commissioner Riggle. Not with us. It doesn't sound like we do have a quorum, so we can proceed. And we will move now to the public comment section of our agenda. Are there comments that individuals would like to present to the commission at this time?
We did not receive any ahead of time, and we do have one attendee if they would like to speak.
Okay. Not hearing those, let's move to the consent agenda section of our meeting. And for those who may be joining us for the first time, the consent agenda, our rules allow us to take care of several items by means of a consent approval. And those are our agenda for today and the approval of the minutes from the November 9, 2023 meeting. I would entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
Go ahead, Melody.
This is Commissioner Williams. I move approval of the consent agenda.
And is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
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 It is carried. And we have an agenda and we will move forward. Next item for our meeting is a presentation by City Engineer, Mr. Fazzari.
All right, thank you. Prepared a brief PowerPoint presentation to guide us through the discussion here. Next slide, please. Just a quick agenda for what we'll be covering here today. I'll be giving you updates on the wastewater treatment plant project, the Veterans Park project, the post office crosswalk, the Lamperti College Avenue intersection, and then some updates that we've been working on with city staff on the city standards. So next slide, please. Yeah, in regard to the wastewater treatment plant, so we submitted our phase one design to the Department of Ecology and received comments from them right before Christmas. And so there were just a few minor comments that we're working on addressing right now. And then we will be submitting that back to Ecology for the green light to go ahead and advertise that for bid. So we're hoping to advertise that project for bidding here probably sometime in March. So then construction will beginning on the phase one improvements at the wastewater treatment plant throughout 2024. The city has been continuing discussions with Walla Walla about some potential regionalization partnership in the future, and FCS Group developed a user rate study that essentially has calculated the cost that Walla Walla might charge College Place if College Place were to pump the treated effluent to Walla Walla for disinfection and disposal. So we have that number now. The other thing we're waiting on is we've had some discussions with Gardena Farms Irrigation District about a potential partnership project with them to utilize the effluent. We've had one discussion with Ecology so far, and they're meeting internally, and they'll get back to us sometime in March on that. So hopefully in March or April, we'll have a better idea of if that is another viable alternative for the wastewater treatment plant effluent. So next slide, please. Veterans Park. So this is a project that the city received some good grant funding for and selected JUB to go ahead and begin on the design of the upgrades at Veterans Park. The project will be adding a basketball court and 2 pickleball courts and a restroom at the park. Received a $280,000 grant from RCO, which requires a match from the city. So the project cost total is about $560,000. JUB just began design on this, and we'll hold a kickoff meeting with the city staff here in the coming month or two to go over some conceptual site plans and review the costs to make sure that we have enough funding for the project. So we're beginning design here in February. Because of the funding source, we do have to do a cultural resources survey. So we have somebody under contract to do that right now. So the schedule is for them to get the cultural resources survey done by the summertime. Us to get our 60% plans done by November, and then bid sometime early in 2025 is the overall schedule. I think the next slide, we have a little conceptual site plan here. Yeah. So this is just one quick site plan that we've thrown together. Basically, it shows a continuation of a walking path throughout the park, a couple of pickleball courts, a basketball court, and a restroom. So that's just one very basic conceptual sketch. And like I said, we have 2 or 3 different layouts, and we'll meet with city staff to go over those. But here's just the first one I wanted to put in front of you so you had a feel for what the project was going to look like. Next slide, please. So the post office crosswalk project, this one is currently being designed by JUB. When we met last quarter, there was a discussion about whether or not there would be a raised crossing here. The emergency services folks raised concern about it being a raised crossing for emergency response time. And so we worked with the DOT, and they agreed that that could be removed from the project. So there will not be a raised crossing there. But this photo here just shows a conceptual depiction of what it will look like from the plan view, with some bulb outs with curbing. And then there will also be some extra lighting there for the crossing. One element that was associated with the funding of this project was some bicycle and pedestrian counters. And so we've been working on what that might look like. It sounds like it's going to be basically a portable camera system. And so it's something that could be moved to different parts of the city to get different pedestrian bicycle activity counts if desired. We're working on the final construction plans for this project right now, and the goal is to advertise for bids sometime around April. And then the Lamperti College Avenue intersection. This is something that JUB is working on as well. This is in response to some of the accidents that have occurred in this intersection over the past few years. So we've conducted the topo survey in this intersection right now, and we're doing some ground penetrating radar to locate some of the utilities in this intersection. And we're just now beginning to look at some of the safety options. if you're familiar with this intersection right now, there's a concrete block wall and there's basically a chain link fence at the back side of the sidewalk. And vehicles have been sliding through the intersection, going through the chain link fence and over that wall. And so we're just getting started to look at the options now, but it's likely going to be some sort of a concrete barrier on the back side of the sidewalk. So the concrete block wall would remain there, and instead of there being a chain link fence, it would be a concrete barrier to prevent traffic from sliding through. Requires a little bit of engineering there because there isn't a lot of structure there, and so we're getting our structural engineers involved to see what might need to be designed there to make that a strong enough barrier to hold traffic back. So just getting started on that now, and I'm sure you'll see more about this in the next meeting. And then finally, updated city standards. So we've been working with city staff to incorporate some changes to the city standards. Here's just a quick summary of some of the things we're changing. We are adding a section to the city standards for adding utility conduit. Basically, we're going to be looking at adding 2-inch scheduled PVC blank conduits at intersections in new developments. The idea being those could be sleeves for future fiber to be pulled through in the future, or maybe other utilities that might be interested in that. But this is something that the city staff thought it would be good to make this a city standard, so these future developments put this infrastructure in, and there's the ability to extend fiber or other utilities without tearing up the roadway in the future. We've also added some parks standards, some descriptions about some of the equipment and irrigation, benches, features like that, just to standardize that to make sure that there's some consistency with what's in the other parks throughout the city. My understanding is that's going to be presented to the Parks Committee next for review, and then eventually will be incorporated into the city standards that go in front of council as well. For the street lights, we just added some clarification about the location of those, and also for a new supplier for the decorative lights. It's my understanding that decorative lights that were used on the CARS project, that manufacturer's either no longer in business or was bought by another company. So we needed to clarify what the new standard would be for that for new development. So we did that. We also added a little bit of information about the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, where those might be located in the city and what we'd like for that detail to look like when that's necessary. Some more details on pavement markings to make things a little bit more consistent and clear, and consistent with the equipment that the city staff has as well. And then finally, just some miscellaneous water and sewer clarifications, working with some of the staff, making sure things are clear for developers and contractors when they're building the infrastructure. And that is all I had to present. Any questions or comments on any of that material?
Not hearing any.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a
Excuse me.
present. Hello?
Sorry, this is Commissioner Williams. I thought you were gonna go around to everybody.
Yes, we are. Thank you, Commissioner Williams. Let's start with you.
Thank you. I just had a quick question on the Veterans Park. I could not, I can't make out the contour lines there. How much of a slope is that back slope there on the park? Is that like 5 or 10 feet, or?
Yeah, I don't have it's difficult to see the contours there, but I believe it's a pretty steep slope on that backside, doesn't it, remember?
There is a fairly significant slope. That property is also owned by the HOA, not by the city.
Oh, okay. So just that at the bottom of the slope, that's all the bigger the park is?
That is correct. The area at the top of the picture, which is the bottom of the slope,
Right.
the north half of that
North half.
rectangle that's kind of triangular shaped, that's
Okay.
what city owns. That is part of the park. The rest of that hillside is part of the HOA's property.
Okay. I have failed to go out and look at that, which I should, but I just was curious about what that might be like. But if that's not part of the park, then not much you can do with it. And I wanted to say, I do appreciate the requirement for putting in the utility conduit and the work on the post office crossing. Those are both, I think, really good ideas.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams, other comments? Questions? Okay, and for the record, Commissioner Riggle has joined us, and we have a full slate of commissioners with us in this meeting. So next on our agenda is a presentation by our Public Works Director, a report. Mr. McAndrews.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I don't have quite the nice fancy PowerPoint that Alex put together, so I apologize. Mine's more of a verbal report. But I'll touch on some of the projects we're working on, not necessarily with JUB. So Majania Road project, we've talked about several times. It's ongoing. We are, beyond 90% design. We've met with or had open houses for property owners to provide some input. We are working with WashDOT at this point to get the obligation that's necessary to move forward with right-of-way acquisition. So hopefully that'll all fall in place here very soon, and our consultants can move forward with going out and doing appraisals and negotiating the right-of-way that we need to complete that project. So that right-of-way process, it's hard to say how long that will take. I would, kind of think maybe best case scenario, we'll wrap that up this fall or winter, and then we can move into the next phase of getting ready to, prepare to bid that project out and move forward. So, it could take longer than that, though. It's kind of out of our hands at that point. So that's Majania. Lions Park. That project went to bid. It has been awarded to Nelson Construction. The contract documents are circulating with Nelson. So once we get the contract all back and signed, we'll be able to set up a pre-construction meeting, get everything coordinated, and construction should start on Lions Park this spring. As soon as we can get it moving, we'll get it moving. So we're all very anxious to move forward on that. As part of that, we are doing kind of a separate, relatively small project. It's linked to Lions Park, but it's at Kiwanis Park, which is to add some electrical in that park to be able to accommodate farm market, so that we won't have to do the farm market here in the parking lot while Lions Park is under construction. So that is moving forward here relatively quickly. That project should go out to bid next week. We've already got a contract in place with Columbia REA and city staff. I believe on Monday we'll be doing some trenching to get power into place, and so REA can put their transformer in, and then the rest of the project will be pulling out to set some in-ground vaults for power for vendors, and potentially to be able to accommodate food trucks or things like that in the future. So should be a nice project. It should make farm market much better this year than having to do it in the parking lot. So then we are working on Damson Road improvement project. That is the north portion of Damson. If you're familiar with Damson Road, from C Street up to, I'm drawing a blank on the road name, about halfway to Rose, has been widened and completed, and then it kind of just necks down to very narrow road. So we're getting ready to hopefully this March or April be able to bid that, and it will widen that, fix some utilities. Part of that is adding a rectangular rapid flashing beacon crosswalk across Rose Street. So our PBS is working on that. PBS Engineering is working on that project, and a portion of that is coordination with the railroad to be able to accommodate the landing for the RFB on the other side of on the north side of Rose. And then funding wise got tied in with that. There's Rose Street kind of realignment at the east side of the city limits. There's about 700 feet of rows inside city limits from Lula to again, I'm drawing a blank on the name. What's that? No, closer than Myra. Our city limits is there at Cary Court. Thank you. Anyway, that is 4 lanes currently. The Cars project made the rest of Rose Street 3 lanes. And City of Walla Walla is doing a project that's going to 3-lane the rest of Rose Street all the way, I think, for its entirety. And so if we didn't do a project to match, we'd have this weird little section of Rose Street that would be 4 lanes with 3 lanes on either side. So we have design mostly wrapped up on that. We got funding that tied it to the Damson project. The challenging part with that is we have to tie bicycle lanes. Walla Walla will have bicycle lanes on both sides of the road. And we have our multi-use path on one side of the road. So part of this project is channeling the bicycles onto the sidewalk, having another rectangular rapid flashing beacon crosswalk so that bicycles and pedestrians can safely cross Rose Street to get to the multi-use path on the one side. So a few challenges there, but I think the design's coming together very well. I have some plans in my inbox that I need to review that I haven't gotten to yet. So that's on my agenda to hopefully do tomorrow. But that'll be another good one that's coming our way. Smaller scale, Autumn Meadows. Last year, about this time of year last year, the city acquired Autumn Meadows, HOAs, road infrastructure in the park. And part of that process was some road improvements that need to happen. We bid essentially a road rebuild / overlay project out last year, and it was unable to be completed. So the contractor that got that, Humbert, is planning to tackle that this spring. So hopefully here, I don't have a date yet, but when the asphalt plants open up, we'll be hopefully towards the front of the line on getting that taken care of. That'll be somewhat impactful to the residents that used to live on private roads that are now public roads that are going to be torn up and rebuilt, but we'll move as quickly as we can. Then there's Ash Street kind of realignment, traffic realignment that we're looking at. Engaged with JUB engineers. They're helping us kind of reconfigure the traffic pattern on Ash Street from 4th to Whitman, essentially kind of that corridor right there by Davis Elementary, trying to help make things safe for parents and teachers and students going to Davis, as well as that's a bicycle route. So we're trying to figure out how we can accommodate bike lanes through there and make it all safe. So the goal is to have that wrapped up and tie it hopefully to the bid process for when we bid the crosswalk project, because there's a little bit of striping and traffic paint that has to happen with that project. There's some economies of scale to kind of tie those together. I think there'll be some savings on both projects if we can make them happen at once. Well 7 is the well that's down off of Teal Road. New well that's going in. We have a contractor on board, a drilling contractor that's supposed to be there really any day to start drilling. They've kind of done the preliminary work. We're just waiting for their drill rig to move in. They have until August to wrap that up, and they seem to have no concerns that they'll finish it. So simultaneously, RH2 Engineering is working on design for the well house that will go along with that. And so our goal with that project is, as the well drilling is wrapping up in July, August, to finalize the well house design plans and be able to go out to bid and move right into the next phase of that. So that'll be good to get another well drilled and online. We're calling it well 7 for now, but it sounds like maybe Department of Health has given it a different number from their numbering system, so the name may change, but it's the same well. So, lastly, just figured I'd mention, there was a study that was done on College Avenue corridor a while ago. It was just shared with me, but part of that was a suggestion that the speed limit on College Avenue from Rose Street to SR 125 be consistent at 25 miles an hour the whole way. If you're familiar with it right now, the north half is 25 miles an hour till right about here in front of City Hall. Then it goes to 30, and then down by the school, it goes to 35, and then you got the school zone where sometimes it's 20. So it's kind of confusing up and down and just variable speeds. So we are planning right around President's Day weekend to update those speed limit signs, make the whole corridor 25 miles an hour, working with the police department for some public outreach. We'll be flagging the signs and doing our best to educate people about the speed change, but I think it'll be a good move to have a consistent speed through the corridor. That's kind of the last thing I have. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. McAndrews. And I'll call on each of the commission members in the order of the positions they hold. Position 1 is Shauna Larson. Any questions, Shauna?
Yeah, I'm curious on Ash Street. Is all the parking going to go away between Fourth and Whitman?
That is to be determined. It is likely going to need to go away to be able to accommodate the bicycle lanes. We've looked at a couple of different iterations of kind of preliminary design, but we haven't settled on a final layout yet.
Because we have, the dormitories are there, and no matter how hard we try to educate the students, they still seem to want to park there, but. I guess
Yeah,
it's
and that's
just
been a
how
complaint
to
with
get-
the police department is they write tickets over and over again, and some of those students just do not care. It was actually part of the driver for this whole thing is to try to figure out, can we accommodate parking and should we or shouldn't we? And through all of this, it became very apparent that bicycle lanes, because it's a bike route, are more important. And making sure that it's safe for parents and whoever to get in and out of the Davis Elementary. So we will accommodate parking if we can, but we're not sure that that's going to be the reality.
And I mean, we have parking, it's just that people want to pull up there.
Sure.
It's so much more convenient, and I'm like, you could walk that far.
So once things are rechannelized and the lanes are marked out differently, it might be harder for somebody to feel like they want to park in the middle of a bike lane as opposed to right now, it's just kind of
Mhm.
marked no parking with signs, but it's not really clear why sometimes, so.
And when is the construction supposed to start on that?
That's sort of up in the air. When's the crosswalk project supposed to?
I think April's the target for bidding that.
Yeah, so I guess that's sooner than I thought. We haven't finalized the design yet. Our hope is to tie it to the crosswalk project. That may not be the reality. It might have to be separate because realistically, I think that should be something that takes place outside of during the summer months when
Right.
Davis Elementary is not in, so.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's less people on our campus, and yeah, I mean,
correct.
okay.
So
Thank
we
you.
will do our best to coordinate that in a time frame that aligns with everything else going on. Take all those factors into consideration,
Thank you.
certainly.
Position 3 is Melody Williams. Commissioner Williams, any questions?
No, I thought that was very clear and helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Position 4, Dan Testman, Commissioner Testman, no questions. Commissioner Riggle, Nancy Riggle, position 5.
No questions.
Okay. I think you answered pretty much everything in advance. Thank you again, Mr.
No problem. Thank you.
McAndrews. Okay, so I think we are at category 6 on our agenda, some closing items, and 6.01 is an announcement of the next meeting that is scheduled for May 9, 2024 at 3:30 in the afternoon. It will be a hybrid meeting as well, similar to this one. And our next item 6.02 is a conclusion to this meeting. Is there a motion to conclude the meeting?
I move that we conclude the meeting for Thursday, February 8th, 2024.
Thank you.
Second,
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second, and Robert's rule says this one isn't debatable. So if there's no objection, the meeting is now concluded at 4 p.m. Thank you. Good work.